We have a question from Mackenzie. Mackenzie is saying, I recently got myself out of a toxic marriage and I'm beginning to realize my ex has a covert narcissistic personality. I still have to co-parent with him, so totally distancing myself isn't possible. I'm hoping for advice on how to heal and protect myself and my daughter moving forward, as well as insight into the distortions that an empath holds in order to attract this kind of relationship. How is the narcissistic personality formed? How does one safely interact with it?
Interesting. Okay. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus. The format of the question reveals the belief system that you hold, which is that the issue really resides in the other person. And the fact of the matter is if you've been in a dysfunctional relationship, an abusive relationship, our dear one was in an abusive relationship in her early 20s. What she came to realize was that it was a reflection of her own mind. It is very, very important as you're traveling through these coming months and years, as you're negotiating with this being, you have set yourself this task. So the first thing is to say to yourself, I am not a victim of the world that I have created. I have brought this into being through all of the decisions that I have made. What this does is it brings you into a position of power. What it does is it stops name calling. You're an empath, he's a narcissist, he's got this going on and you've got that going on. What you want to get to is the truth, which is you are the creator of your experience. The experience you're having has been created by, let's say, the last 1,000 or 10,000 decisions that you have made. So if this has been a long relationship, it's more like 10,000 decisions. What we want you to do is to look at where you have contributed to the dysfunctional relationship that you have. Now, this is something that is very, very frowned upon in your society at this time. It's called victim blaming, but there is no victim in A Course in Miracles teachings. You are the one that has brought this to you by the things that you believe about the world, by the things that you believe about yourself, by the behaviors that you have engaged in, the value systems that you have supported and strengthened through the last 1,000, let's say 1,000 decisions that you have made. So the first thing we want you to do is to reflect upon your contribution to this. Now, the reason we ask you to do this is because in a state of fight or flight, which you will be in if you believe that you are being attacked by a person who has a nefarious plan for you, you will be in a state of high alert and extreme vigilance, which means that you are in a fight or flight mentality. And what this means is that you are going to resort to ego devices in an effort to survive. So this is why we want you to change the story, because when you stay in the narcissist, poor empath victim mode, you are not going to be in a place of relaxation and calm. You are going to be in a place of fight or flight or freeze. And you will be repeating the poor decisions you have made in the past. They will just be in a different form. So when you have a toxic, dysfunctional marriage, the first place is that you have to go and say, this is a co-creation. And this is the most powerful place you can be, because then you begin to look at the foundational elements of how it came into being. Go back to the very first time you met this person. Go back and ask yourself, was I seduced by their appearance, their clothes, their fancy car? Was I seduced by their charming demeanor? And did I see red flags early on? And what were those red flags? And why did I ignore them? Because very few people who are in this kind of relationship will disagree that there were red flags. They will say, yes, I saw the way he treated his child or his dog, or the way he talked to that waitress, or the way he treated me the first time I disagreed with him, or the first time I did not do what he or she wanted. This is not always about men, of course. So we want you to go back to the foundation of that relationship, and we want you to ask yourself, What was the carrot? What was the allure? What was the magic that that person wove around themselves to get you to be with them when they, in fact, turned out not to be very nice at all? So they were acting and you were falling for the glamour of their presentation. But that glamour did not last very, very long. In fact, it may have begun to crack within the first 2 months or 3 months or 6 months. The question then you ask yourself is, why did I stay even though I felt that there was some nefarious shadows lurking beneath this person? Oh, they were still good looking, they were still charming, they were still this, they were still that. Or had the fear kicked in? Did the fear begin to win early on in this relationship? And so you thought, oh, well, I better start behaving myself so that he doesn't get mad at me or she doesn't get mad at me. Then you have to look at the fact that, oh, as soon as somebody began to tell you off, you conformed to what they wanted. You began to dance to their tune. That would be something that would be your contribution to the dysfunctional marriage, not their contribution. Anybody can tell you anything. I want you to go and sit over in that corner, and you say, I'm not going. But if they get mad and stand over you and say, I want you to go and sit in that corner, then you think, oh yeah, I better go sit in the corner or something bad will happen. This may be the kind of situation that was in the beginning of that relationship. And that's where we want you to go so that you can find out what your weak points were, because this being is going to continue to use the strategies that they used with you in the beginning. And if you have not found out what your weak points and vulnerable points are, their strategies will continue to work on you because they've been working on you for a long time. So this is why we want you to go back and to write down all of the ways that you think that you contributed, and the fears and the feelings and the Achilles heels that you find in your own behavior. And then you can look at those things and say, how can I begin to amend those weak points in myself as I move through these next weeks and months and years having to negotiate with this person. So for example, if somebody raises their voice or looms over you or is very intimidating or threatening, and that used to get you doing what they wanted, then you will prepare yourself for that when you have a meeting with them. Oh, when I'm transferring my children or child to this person on a visit, they may very well use that tactic again. And so I am going to prepare for that. Now, this is sort of the more human side of the equation. The Course in Miracles side of the equation is that you will be praying for them and you will be wishing them well, and you will be in meditation envisioning having wonderful, wonderful interactions with them where you're exchanging conversation, or you're at a meeting with lawyers or whatever it is that you have to do, and you are seeing everything resolve the way you want to have it resolved. But what all of this is going to require is that you come to a place of calm, that you step out of the fight or flight or freeze aspect of your mind and go into the more evolved aspect of yourself, which of course comes when you're at peace and at calm. So we would suggest that you do things that calm you, play calming music, that you stop when you find your mind running away with you with stories, come back to the present moment, get back into your body and ask what's actually happening right now. I'm sitting in the living room, nothing bad is happening, and yet I'm in a panic. That means I've left the present moment, I've gone into the future, I'm in a fantasy, because that's what happens when you leave the present moment and you go into a fearful future. You are in fact fantasizing about a negative future, and you are believing it, and your body is responding to the images and ideas that you are actually indulging in yourself in your mind. So this is a very, very important time for you to stay in the present moment and keep getting back in your body. So that is the way that we would suggest it go back to the beginning of the relationship and the way that this being lured you into their nefarious web, and understand that you were a perfect match for each other. The weaknesses that you had were the strengths that he had. And those things could be as much as you had a lack of self-awareness and he was very self-aware and knew exactly what he was doing. It could be that your weakness was bright and shiny objects and he offered you bright and shiny objects. And so you weren't paying attention to some of the other messaging that was coming through. So this is about seeing where your weak points are and understanding that there is nothing a victim blaming about this, but this is the point of this experience that you have had. You have had this experience so that you can learn about your beliefs and what a terrible path that they can lead you down. So we want you to start with that belief that he is the bad guy and you are the sensitive empath. That is a belief that is not going to serve you in this healing process. You have to come to a place where you understand that energetically and frequency wise, you were a match. He had things you wanted, you had things he wanted, and you fit together perfectly. And the fact that he is dysfunctional, in your opinion, is unfortunately the mirror for you to understand that on some level you were as dysfunctional as him. That's why you were attracted to each other. That's why you stayed together. That's why this drama has played out. So take the lesson and don't take offense, but go back to the beginning and ask yourself, what have I done here and how have I contributed? Now, what's going to happen is that the story that you have playing out, which is the same story our dear one had playing out in her early 20s when she was in a dysfunctional relationship, was this is a bad person and they are bad and they want to do bad things to me and they make me feel horrible and they say nasty things and they're dangerous. That may very well be the case. And if that person is dangerous, we say proceed with caution. Our dear one certainly had to proceed with caution with the person that she chose. But the fact of the matter is her internal world was so chaotic and unloving and judgmental that he was the creation that she brought to herself. He manifested into words, actions, deeds, behaviors, all of the hateful things and chaotic beliefs that she had within her own mind. He would abandon her. He would physically assault her. He would abuse her. He would ignore her. He would do all of these terrible things. And in fact, in hindsight, when she began to do A Course in Miracles, what she realized was that he was showing her how little she loved herself. That is our answer.